to my computer. All right. Hey, greetings, everybody. I have a special guest with me today. This is Courtney Thomas. She is the CEO and president of Newhouse, the shelter in Kansas City. I'm going to let Courtney tell you a little bit about herself, and then we're going to jump right in today and talk about a tool at Newhouse, which I think is really an interesting tool that has a lot of applications. So Courtney, if you would please share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what makes you tick, and why are you at Newhouse?
Well, thanks, Gray, for having me. It's a pleasure to share with you all today a little bit about my history and also the important work that we are doing at Newhouse. I'm a North Carolina native. I have lived in Kansas City for almost 20 years, lost most of my Southern accent, but not my love for sweet tea and hush puppy. So those things will probably remain forever. But I have spent my career in the service space and primarily working with nonprofit organizations to help them become the best possible versions of themselves and to have the greatest impact in our community. My education is in accounting, so I have a very non-linear career path of education and finance, and then started my career in the nonprofit sector in the animal welfare space. And I managed veterinary hospitals in North Carolina, helping them to become more customer-centric, more profitable, more leadership and training driven. Operational excellence was our focus, and then had the opportunity to come to work in Kansas City for Wayside Waifs, one of the largest animal welfare organizations in our area and also in the country, and had the privilege to work alongside an amazing leader who gave me a lot of freedom and empowerment to bring about a whole new business model that put us on the national map, that helped us to reduce euthanasia numbers in our community, that helped us to start programs that supported other agencies like domestic violence shelters. And then I had the opportunity to lead the merger of two nonprofit organizations on the Kansas side to form Great Plains SPCA. And from there, I took a really brave and bold move. After 20 years in the animal welfare space, I went to be the CEO of Central Exchange, which is a leadership development organization for women, and helping women gain a greater and higher level of confidence to achieve their full potential, to help businesses and organizations learn how to better support women and to recognize that diversity brings about greater results. So diversity of thought, diversity of leadership, diversity of gender at the table helps to bring about better results for organizations. And then from there, had the opportunity to go back to one of my strongest areas of passion, which is domestic violence prevention, and have been at Newhouse for almost 2 years. I started 75 days before the pandemic hit. So that was a very interesting, an interesting opportunity to step in when a lot of change was needed, but also a lot of unnavigated or uncharted waters were being explored in our community and around the world with the pandemic. And here we are 2 years later, and we've accomplished many great things. We've built an extraordinary team. And as you can see here on the screen, one of the foundation building blocks of that is our workplace culture commitment, which kind of operationalizes how we expect to show up for each other and for ourselves.
Yeah, and thank you, Courtney, for introducing yourself. I think that this tool is really interesting. Having been in social services for 30 plus years, and have been on really great teams and have been on really hurt teams. I think this is such an interesting tool. This is the first time that I have seen something like this. And I knew the first time that you had shared it with me, I was immediately, just immediately impressed with it. And I wasn't there at its creation. I know the creation occurred during an all staff meeting, kind of right smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. So can you talk a little bit about its creation and sort of its purpose, and then we'll jump into some of its applicable uses?
Absolutely. So this concept first came to mind for me when I was at Great Plains SPCA, and we did a lot of training and professional development for the team, and brought all teams together. We had multi-state campuses. So we had a campus in Kansas and a campus in Missouri. And my goal was to bring all people together and help them understand the ways that their work impacted the rest of the cycle of our work. And we used this tool at Great Plains as the cover of our handbook. It was posted and published throughout the shelter so that volunteers, donors, adopters, anyone, staff, everybody had a constant reminder of our commitment to each other. It was a great tool that staff really embraced, and I wanted to bring that success over to Newhouse. So we had a 2-day offsite meeting with our team, both in 2020 and in 2021. And in 2021, we really were focused on this workplace culture agreement. I think it's really important for leaders of organizations. You model the culture that you are expecting, but you can't really dictate the culture. You've got to create a place of openness where people can be a part of building it, and inviting them into that space is where you see the greatest opportunity for results and buy-in, is people feeling like that they played a role in creating something. So the statements that you see here on this culture agreement are things that our team members, as they were broken up into groups, they all came up with about 25 or 30 things that they felt really exemplified what we want people to experience when they are at Newhouse. And the way that I start the conversation with the team as they begin this work is to say, imagine what you want people to think and see and hear and feel when they are at Newhouse. So imagine what, as a person walking in the door, what are those things that you want them to feel and experience? And that really leads to the creation of culture build. It leads to the creation of your service build. So what should our services look like to map and connect to the ways that we want people to feel? Because it all is about experience. It really is about experience. And for me, as the leader of the organization, I just want Newhouse to be the place people want to be. And someone asked me the other day, who'd worked for me at a different organization, well, that's what you said at Wayside. That's what you said at Great Plains. That's what you said at Central Exchange. And they're 100% right. That's the leader that I want to be, is to create the place that people want to be, whether that's survivors, whether that's employees, volunteers, donors, community partners. If we give them a choice, if we told survivors that there were open beds in every shelter in Kansas City, we want them to choose Newhouse because of the experience they will have, because of the culture that we create, the service that they are delivered. We all want to be where we feel connected, where we feel seen, where we feel that we're heard, and where we matter. And
where where you would feel like you belonged.
That's right.
So I want to just lay out real quick for those that are listening, whether they are new staff or social work students. So Newhouse is, when we think about the layout of administration, Newhouse is not a top-down, vertical-down structured agency. It is more of a flattened hierarchy. Courtney has multiple reports to her, and she gives them a lot of autonomy to be able to make decisions, as opposed to a very traditional top-down president, vice president, middle manager. And I think because of that flattened hierarchy, this workplace culture really serves as a foundation for that servant leadership that you try to put in place every single day, Courtney. And I don't know if a vertical organization, if this workplace culture agreement would be, how it would work. Because modeling servant leadership, but at a broad, flattened hierarchy, it's easier to put things like this in place. Mm-hmm. So I just want the listeners to understand, when we think about the structure of a social service agency, there are multiple structures, and Newhouse is a flattened hierarchical structure. So when we look at this workplace culture agreement, what are the top 2 or 3 things that jump out at you, Courtney? Because I got 2 or 3.
You know, I think the very first line there is intentionally placed in that space, to just reinforce and celebrate that we are a united and we're a very diverse team. That is, that's pivotal for the success of any organization. Is we have to be united around our cause and our mission, and diversity helps us to bring about better ways of thinking, better solutions, better connections. We intentionally made have fun a large font, because we want people to enjoy the work that they are doing. We want people to have fun and be excited about coming to work. That one is a big one for me. I think if I were to point out kind of two other highlights, it would be that you're never done learning. So I believe everybody is a CEO, because you're the CEO of you. You are the CEO of whatever responsibilities you've been given within the organization. And leadership is not a destination, it is a forever journey. And every single day we are all showing up and we're learning something new from others. We're learning something new about ourselves. And if we stop learning, then we stop growing and we stop performing, and we aren't the best possible versions of ourselves. And then Gray, that excellence is a big thing for me. I want us to be excellent at what we do. But right above that, it says, extend grace to your teammates, our clients, and yourself. And I think that is just important to me, maybe right now more than it has been in the past, because coming off of 2 years of a pandemic, coming off of the construction and things that we were doing to transform the space within the shelter, I think we want to get to our destination faster. We want the outcomes to come sooner, and we have to stop for a second and have grace and understand that we have accomplished a lot. When you think of the iceberg illusion and you see the top of the iceberg, and that's what people see around success or your accomplishments, but they don't see what's below the water and how hard you've worked and all the contributions and ways that you've had to adjust and sacrifice to make success happen. And so I think that one is a really important one to me now and always, is grace. Grace is a gift. And when we extend that gift to ourselves and we extend that gift to others, we become more human with each other. We become more authentic in the ways that we show up and communicate. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely correct. When you were talking about have fun, I for a moment kind of remembered something my dad said to me. And my dad was not a social worker. He was an interior designer. But I remember him saying to me when I was in school, doesn't matter what you do, but look forward to every day. If you find that you're not looking forward to getting up and going to work, then you're in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. And my dad had shared with me, he had friends that hated their jobs. They got up every day, they went to work, they hated it. They just did it to make money. I always took that as, even on the roughest day, I still want to get up and look forward to my day, whatever that part of that day is, whether I get to meet someone new or do a new assessment or get to be in a team meeting or, laugh a little bit. So I do think having fun, even in social services, we're surrounded by so much trauma, whether it's, primary trauma or secondary or vicarious trauma. I think we should figure out how to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other one that I really love is that it's okay not to be okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to make mistakes. And that ties back into your comments of grace. We're going to make mistakes in social services. Don't be afraid to make them. If you're afraid to make them, then you'll sit on the sideline and you'll never engage clients. Mm-hmm. So you've got to jump in there. You've got to engage. So in kind of getting ready for this interview, I was thinking to myself, what are the applications of this tool besides as someone walks in the agency, whether it be a volunteer group or a new staff or an existing staff or a new resident or someone from the community, what are some other applications for this tool that come to your mind?
I think it is, we put it on our website because we want the community to also know and have visibility around our commitment to each other, and perhaps it will motivate other agencies to think about the importance of defining this within their own four walls and for their team. So I think it's a tool for others to learn from as well. From an organizational perspective, one of the other applications is if you have an employee that maybe struggling in a certain area, or maybe needs some coaching, or they're just flat out our performance challenges, this is what you go back to first, right? This is the start of your conversation with that individual to say, we've all made a commitment as an organization. I've made these commitments to you, and we have expected these behaviors and commitments from you as well. Let's talk a little bit about that. And it's a way to help identify within an organization if there's a barrier somewhere that we may need to address, to allow people to operate more in this way or fashion. I think it is important in our space with a residential living facility that residents who walk in see this too, and they can hold us accountable to
Right.
these things. So it's an extension of sharing it publicly. Means that, oftentimes like your rules and your guidelines are in a handbook, and the handbook is somewhere in a drawer or it's saved on your computer, but we are putting this front and center and out forward for people, because this is what we live by. If we do all these things, then all the other measures that we look to, our key performance indicators that we look to determine success, we have a higher probability in success of those things if we are all operating off of this document first.
Right.
This is the culture, is the organizational culture is the true thermometer to success.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I see this as the roadmap. And not
Mhm.
only if you had an underperforming staff, but if you had an underperforming team, you could sit down with the team and say, hey, let's pull out the workplace culture agreement. Or even, with my short, tenure at Newhouse, there's been a few times where we've had philosophical differences just among the teams.
Mhm.
And instead of constantly battling, we can take a step back and say, what is our roadmap? And have we accidentally left the map and we're over here four-wheeling? What do we need to do to get back on the map? And it can continue, to head due north at that point. So I think it has a lot of really great applications. I also love sharing it. I tell people, I tell the clinical staff, I tell students of social service work, nonprofit work can't be a noun. It has to be a verb. You
Mhm.
have to be out doing. You can't just be talking about being a diverse team. You can't talk about practicing empathy. You have to actually do these things. And this is a tool to hold the agency accountable to the community. So at the macro level, to hold the agency accountable to itself, to the board, to hold staff accountable, and like you said, for clients to hold every member, accountable at that point. Because when you walk in the shelter, when you walk in any hospital space, when you walk in any residential space, that resident may not know what your title is or what your job is, but at that moment, whether you're kitchen staff or, advocate, mental health, tech, youth care worker, at that moment, you are a leader because they just see you as someone that they could ask for help. So I think there's a lot of really great applications as a roadmap and as a way to prop things up when they get a little difficult.
For sure. Absolutely. And, I think it is a way for the team to hold the leaders accountable too.
Oh, yeah.
So we talk about leaders holding others accountable, but this is a way for teammates to hold us accountable as well. And, the more that we can focus on knowing our team, connecting with our team, the more they feel empowered and motivated and inspired to produce results. I mean, there's so many quotes about what real leadership looks like and feels like. And one of my favorites, and I'm not going to quote it exactly right, but it's from John Quincy Adams, I think, is, if you're motivating people and inspiring people to be more and do more, then you are a leader. And getting our team surrounded around this process and not, imagine just the difference. Imagine the difference if I had, or you and I worked together, Gray, on this, and we just handed it over to the team and said, okay, this is our culture. This is what we expect of you. This is what we want you to do. The acceptance of this document or philosophy or guidepost wouldn't be at all what it is now, because this is their work. It's not our work. This is the team's work. And we are saying we live by these guideposts and philosophies that you've put in front of us.
Right. I have asked supervisees, in the middle of supervision, what's your agency's mission? What are the agency's values? And they, more often than not, can't answer that question. To help people? Well, yeah, helping people, but so you can just throw out a document or you can create a roadmap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Yep.
think that's the difference. Hey, thank you so much for your time, Courtney. I appreciate it. I'm going to stop recording. Don't go anywhere. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, new staff, social work students. I just think this is such a great tool. Please go to Newhouse. You can Google it. It's pretty easy to find it. Newhouse, Kansas City. Go check out their website. And if you have questions, reach out and ask, because, that's what it's all about. So thank you.
Thank you, Gray.